Brr, brr, brr,
Boo, boo,
brr.
boo. Do you know what those were?
What were those?
Those were New Year's fireworks.
Wow. New Year's fireworks. And with the new year, the Record Shepherds are back.
Back for 2024. We've been away for a minute, but we're back, renewed and refreshed.
Very refreshed. Much needed break, and just happy to be back with my buddy Jason to talk about all the things music and to give artists out there the help, the advice that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit of a crazy end of the year for both Tim and I, and we decided rather than force it, we'll just give ourselves permission to take some time off, and now we're back and we do feel re-energized, and looking forward to a year of episodes, and in the spirit of New Year and New Year's resolutions and all that sort of stuff, we decided just to take a little bit of a look at how we've been doing things, and we're going to mix it up a little bit. It'll basically be the same old Record Shepherds that you're used to, but we're going to try things a little bit differently, and probably, the world's gone short form content, hasn't it? We're not giving up on the long form podcast,
no, not at all. Yeah.
but we're probably going to do a little bit more clips and things, because we think we can impart more value that way to you guys. So maybe that's the way to go. We're going to give it a spin.
And I think this is a lesson in also not being afraid to change things. I think that the more feedback that we get from people who listen to the podcast, and the more that we fill things out, it's okay to change things, not only in your professional life, but also your creative life. And in the new year, do not be afraid to pivot if you need to.
Yeah. And I can tell you, it's good to take breaks.
Good to take breaks,
man, because you can get burned out.
Definitely.
So, there you go. It's already imparted a couple of snippets for 2024.
Yeah. And I think a large part of what we'd like to talk about today in the new year is building habits, particularly for musicians.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's a pretty obvious one to start with, but I do think it's a good one. Whatever it is about the start of a new year, I guess it's turning over a new leaf, and everybody reflects on the year that's passed, and everybody nowadays posts their travel pics for 2023. So, but anyway, we're here at the start of the new year, and it seems like there is a sort of natural urge to see, sort of sit down and go, what do you want to do with the year ahead? And New Year's resolutions are still a thing, and to be honest with you, I kind of enjoy setting New Year's resolutions, and just because it's goals, right? It's if you have direction and you're kind of ambitious and you want to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in this life, you kind of do need directions, and goals just help you set that course, but it's not all about goals. It's not just all sometimes they can just seem so far off and people fall off their goals, so it's about habits.
Because it's not a goal for you to brush your teeth in the morning, hopefully not. It's just something that you do automatically, right? So it's you want to start to do things where it just feels habitual to do so, past the New Year's Eve bump. Because I know even with myself, I felt a bit of a bump in energy since the new year, where I'm emailing people more, I'm having coffee meetings with people and just networking in my own way. And it's important to know how to sustain that past the first 2 to 3 months of the new year.
Yeah, and one, what got me sort of thinking about it, the whole, in terms of a takeaway, taking on any sort of goal can, even especially if it's lofty, that can seem fairly daunting and overwhelming. And then as you get into just the sort of daily routine, or the sort of just everyday life starts back up, you can very quickly just fall off the path or lose track of it, and it can just seem too lofty almost.
For sure.
So it's all about your behaviors on a day-to-day basis, and building the habits and the short-term goals that sort of are aligned with your longer-term goals.
Yeah.
And it's just like any journey. It starts with the first step, And of course, there's the second step, the third step, the fourth step. But if you can, set rather than like just your goal to be to complete this journey or this race, whatever it might be, like let the first goal be a lot shorter than that, and more manageable. And if you keep achieving those sort of like micro goals or short term goals, and they're aligned with your longer term goal, lo and behold you get to the end of the year or whatever your time horizon is, and you've done it.
Yeah.
You've achieved that bigger goal.
And just for today, I think we're gonna take 3 goals that I often hear a lot of musicians say that they want to set for themselves, and we're gonna maybe figure out and look at examples on how to accomplish those goals in super practical ways that's more habit building.
Yeah, and I think like the sort of preface to this is there is an excellent book. You've probably seen it in a lot of the stores and on Amazon, etc. It's by a guy called James Clear, Atomic Habits. And this is essentially, what he talks about is like, how to build habits and just become 1% better every day. You're like only really competing with yourself in this regard. And if you can do that, and he talks about the 4 principles of how to form effective good habits, and also how to form or break bad habits. So essentially, I won't go into it, but I would recommend people check that out. It's about micro habits that we're talking about, these baby steps. So sort of like everything I think we'll discuss here is essentially examples of how you might do that in your music space, whatever your goals for the year might be. So
right.
So yeah, what have we got?
Yeah, and another prefix. I think too that with a lot of my musician friends, they play music because it's what makes them happy, And then when it starts to feel like a job, that's when they get unmotivated to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's important to also say that no matter how you establish your habits, you should always have a love of what you're doing. And if it becomes if it gets to a point where you start to hate what you do, then maybe it's time to take a break. But also acknowledging that the things that we want do require hard work. And as long as you are willing to put in the same passion that you are in building these habits for music in general, I think you'll be in a good space.
Totally, man. And that's a very good point, and we're probably getting a little bit philosophical here at the start, but I like it. It's that's actually one of the reasons why they say like do something you love.
Yeah.
Like that's what my dad told me. He said find something you can do that you love, because the truth is when it gets tough, the people who love it, like if you don't love it, the people who do will have a natural advantage over you. Definitely. They'll be able to keep going because they love it. So but it is a graft and it is a grind, but don't lose the love for it. And if you're a musician and you're in a position where you're able to grow a fan base and perform for other people, I mean it's a remarkable thing. It's a very privileged position to be in that you've achieved for yourself. So don't lose the love for it, because it's something special
for sure. So getting into the first goal that I hear a lot of musicians say that they want to get better at, especially in the new year, is write more songs. They often say, I don't write enough songs, or I never finish my songs, or I just want to be able to churn out songs faster, or of a higher quality than what I do now.
Yeah.
And when you say that, it's a great goal, but again, it's like that's broad. So what are the habits that we can sort of develop to help you get to producing and writing more songs?
Yeah, so that's a good point. I think a lot of artists struggle with to get that initial spark, that initial, and then they're jamming out that particular whatever it is they've got, and they sit down and they write and they develop it. But that's the thing that they keep coming back to, and they maybe flesh it out, but you hear time and time again that they just don't finish the songs. There's loads in the locker
for sure
that they're working on, and some have been there for like months, sometimes years. So I think like one habit to set if you're a songwriter and you're sort of finding this issue, like make a goal of finishing your songs, like return to some of songs, or line up like 2 or 3 songs that you haven't finished that have been kicking around in the locker for a while, and give yourself a deadline to finish those songs.
Give yourself a deadline to either finish those songs, and I think just commit yourself to revisiting older songs that you haven't finished and adding to them in some measure, right? So you might not necessarily finish this, like when you revisit the song, you might not necessarily finish it, but commit to just adding more notes to the song.
Yeah, totally. You know? I'm a harder taskmaster then if I'm saying committed to
yeah.
No, but obviously you don't necessarily have to finish it in one sitting or whatever, but again, like just the micro habit, like set some time aside and commit to, initially it might be commit to developing it further.
Yeah.
And maybe if you set a next session, or give yourself a limited number of sessions, and do finish it, you know, like, because otherwise it's just more work put in it. And I think artists can be, and songwriters, they can be very precious. It's their art, it's their baby at the end of the day. But ultimately, going back to what we were talking about, like, this is, if you're trying to do this as a profession, in my line of work, if I had all the time to perfect every agreement to do whatever, I'd be there forever.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But I don't have that luxury. I have to get stuff out the door. Right. And I think there's an element of that. You gotta at some point, you gotta call it finished.
Yeah. And I think I like schedules, right? So if we look at it on a weekly basis, we could say maybe Tuesday or Wednesday is your revisit old song day. Whether you finish it or just adding on to it, that is a day for a couple of hours, maybe after, if you have a full-time job, to set aside to only looking at your older work that you need to finish, right?
Yeah, I like it. What about songwriting challenges?
Yeah.
I mean, that there's an element of a challenge in that. If you set yourself a deadline to finish. But what about other types of songwriting challenges to develop those songwriting skills?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to study music in college, and this was a challenge that I had heard a lot from my songwriting friends who were in those programs. Their professors would give them homework to basically, give you a set amount of time to write a complete song, whether it might be 20 minutes, right? So it's almost like think of it as a drill or a workout where you have 20 or 30 minutes, you could pick another day of the week on a Thursday to write a complete song from start to finish. Again, does not have to be perfect, but what it does is it trains you to be able to churn out music faster and also to eliminate any of the normal barriers that you would set for yourself if you had more time.
I love it. Yeah. Another one could be, just pick any particular random topic and write lyrics.
That too. Yeah.
Write lyrics to it, But I like that idea in general, like just setting challenges. This doesn't have to be stuff you're ever going to release.
Yeah.
But, you should at least put in enough effort that, that it means something.
Yeah. That what you just said reminded me of there's this DJ on the internet and on TikTok and Instagram, and he does these hilarious loops, and then he just builds on top of the loops, but he'll say one phrase and just keeps going on it, and he's often yelling at people in public, but it's super motivational. I forgot his name. If somebody is listening and remembers, just put it in the comments. But I love watching that guy's videos. But yeah, you can set yourself challenges either with time or with subject matter, and then you just finish the song. Give yourself 30 minutes or an hour, however much you can allot in your weekly time, to just pick a topic and finish a song based off of that topic.
Yeah, I like that. And then another thing, you could look to develop yourself just by changing your songwriting habits. If you're someone who traditionally writes alone, but you are interested in changing your output or seeing what how you could develop things, maybe collaborating could be a cool way to do that. There's so much collaboration these days in the music industry, so if you are someone who writes alone, I think it's at least good experience to go through like a collaboration process.
Yeah, I cannot recommend this enough. I don't ever recommend only writing alone. I feel like that's just not how life works, and that's definitely not how a lot of the music is written in the music industry works. And in terms of what collaboration looks like practically, again, if you're looking at a schedule, maybe you dedicate, and if you have songwriting session time, maybe you dedicate that time to exploring artists that you like, either within your local community or on the internet, and you network by just like DMing somebody that you like and saying, hey, let's get on a Zoom and like do a co-writing session together. And there's time allotted in your schedule dedicated towards that.
Yeah, and that's actually, that brings us nicely on to like the next kind of goal or area for development that you might be interested in as a up and coming musician, artist, songwriter, whatever it might be. Networking.
Definitely.
Right. I think it's like it's, you know, it's, what do they say? It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Definitely. That is the case for a lot of a lot of people. And I mean, everybody is always talking about networking better, especially in the music industry. So this is one I feel like I hear probably more than any of the other ones that we're going to talk about, is I want to network more. Yeah. What does that actually mean? And I think before you say you want to network, I think it's important to understand why. You know, what is, I think setting a goal and understanding what specifically are you trying to get out of networking, and also what does that word mean to you? Is it about, you know, passing out business cards and sort of letting everybody know when your next release is coming out, or is it about building genuine connections that is going to last the rest of your career? And I would challenge you to try to define that for yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, often with a lot of up and coming artists, it's, you know, they understandably they just want to get their music in front of people.
Right.
So it's always, you know, it's very much like, I'm an artist, here's my music.
Opportunistic.
Yeah, it's like almost like a sales pitch or whatever. And look, I'm not saying don't do that.
And there's time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, you can also be a little bit more like strategic or clever with your networking, in terms of like, you know, who you're networking with and what you're actually trying to achieve and get out of that, whether it's like, you know, a collaboration down the line, whether it's jumping on you know, the bill with like another act or what have you. So meeting managers or meeting other artists who can introduce you to managers, you know, there's other motivating factors, let's say, like for networking, other than just getting your music in front of people.
And I think it's to that point, it's just about establishing your value proposition as an artist and what you can offer to the market that's unique compared to your peers. But I think in terms of networking, practical steps to figure out how to get that done.
Yeah, micro habits,
right, because that's what we're talking about, is micro habits. This first habit is one that I think we're all guilty of if you work in the music industry, and also artists, because I think artists can be particularly bad at this. Go to shows. We love music. We love live music. And I think sometimes when you're too worked up in whatever it is you have going on in your corner of the music industry, whether that be as a working at labels, at publishers, as a manager, as an agent, or as a songwriter or whatever, we kind of tend to only do that one thing. But understand that you decided to work in music because you love music. So again, with the scheduling, once a month, go to a show. I'm not talking about a big concert, you know, at Madison Square Garden. I'm talking about go to a local small show within your community. And then if the music that's being played there is something that you vibe with, talk to those musicians, talk to the people around them, talk to their fans, talk to their managers, because you never know if you're going to vibe with somebody if the music that you write is similar to the music that they write, and that's just an organic way to network with somebody.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like, you just don't know what's going to come from those relationships, and if they dig your music, well, you know, you could be invited up onto the next bill, again, collabs or whatever. But you're plugging into people who are already out there doing it and on the journey that you're on. So like, why not?
Yeah. And also, kind of going back to one of the other micro habits that we talked about is taking time out of your day to network with people on social media. So whether it be a couple of hours, it's that similar thing with finding people, researching them, and it might not necessarily be about specifically songwriting, but it could be about, just anything related to what your goals are. So definitely taking time out at least once a week to network on social media.
Yeah, I like that approach actually. Of like, it's quite structured, of actually dedicating time in the week for people who are like structured like that. You know, because you know what it's like. You could get lost on social media, but if you actually dedicate a certain time of the day or the week for doing those sort of reach outs, or eventually that'll become a habit. And don't expect to hear back from everyone.
No.
Don't expect to hear back from anyone maybe, but people will get back to you, and if they like your stuff, and especially if you're complimentary of what they're doing, and like again, just build the network that way as well.
Yeah. Another habit that you can set for yourself in the new year is at least once a year take a trip that's dedicated to music.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So that could be a music conference. It could be like a South by Southwest. It could be a music festival where you're just going around listening to music, and you can network that way, joining other fans or going to see the artists that you actually like. Take a trip once a year outside of your immediate area that's dedicated towards music.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to, as we were talking about earlier, keep that passion alive as well.
Right.
Because like that sounds like pretty fun, to be honest, especially if you're doing a road trip.
Yeah.
Get the tunes going, check out a music festival somewhere, and remind yourself of why you're doing it.
Right. And then lastly, what I would say is do not wait for the network to come to you. And another habit that you can build is just starting your own network. If you are an artist and you know 2 or 3 or 4 other artists in your community, that's a network, right? So it could be setting up events at the local bar once a month to where you guys can come together and talk about new ideas, new strategies, and new opportunities for yourselves as musicians.
Totally. I mean, actually, that's a really powerful thing, because if you can form a habit of doing that, then and that becomes like part of your schedule or whatever. When you do meet people in your in your neighborhood or whatever, your area, and you have like a bit of a connection there, that's a cool way to sort of get them in, like invite them. It's just a hang essentially, right. But we're talking about music, we're talking about ideas, we're talking about whatever it might be. Yeah, I like that idea. Just like a sort of like a regular scheduled hang dedicated to your craft.
Yeah, and a quick note: at the end of this podcast, we're going to be summarizing all of these habit building exercises, and also moving you guys to resources to sort of help you guys with some of these habits as well. So just listen to the end for that. Jason?
And then another thing, we talk about songwriting, talked about networking, and then I think the third goal that a lot of musicians and up and coming budding musicians might set for themselves is the live performance space.
Yeah.
Actually, like if you're someone, I mean, you can be in lots of different stages of your career. You can actually be, like very well seasoned, but just feel that you're not performing enough. Like,
right.
I think that I don't need to really say it, but the power of like live music, that's the thing that still like gets people hooked. There's no shortcut. That we got our social media and we got our TikTok, etc. Right. But if you really want fans, getting out and playing and letting them see and feel your music is so powerful. So I would say like a good goal would be to increase the frequency of performances.
Yeah, and I think a good ways to do that, I think we want to dispel the model of, there are a lot of music or musicians in New York, LA, Nashville who feel like their first show has to be, they have a 10-piece band, they have to coordinate rehearsals, they have to pay everybody, they have to contact the venue directly, and they have to set up their the back recording. They have to set up their own audio visuals. That is not what you should be coming out of the gate doing. If you have never performed a show or you want to perform more shows, an easy way to do that is, again, frequency. Once a month, just go to a jam session. Because in a way, that's a type of performance, even if it's amongst other musicians, right? Because you can see who you vibe with, you can see your music compared to others, and you can see, your ability to vibe out with people. I think jam sessions is a beautiful way to perform, as well as go to open mics. For songwriters in particular, this is a great way to perform more, because you're not necessarily setting up anything. You're coming to something that's pre-established. All you have to do is email, or most of the time just go and sign up. Right?
Yeah. And they're fun as well. Open mic nights. So there's loads going on in your city. Just like Google basically, and you know, like you'll find those. So definitely those are like the sort of entryways for sort of people who are really sort of starting at the start, or haven't sort of, or a bit out of practice or whatever. I think those are great ways. And then if you're maybe the next stage up, where like you sort of feel you've been doing that and you really want to get on to the next step, well then that's where your contacts come in, and the building the network. Because as we've already discussed, if you're speaking with artists in your community, or in your people that you've connected with online, they're going to be out there and they're going to be playing shows, and maybe you can get on a bill that way, and be actually playing to an audience and getting that experience. And again, you're out there, if it's especially if you're similar genre, maybe you can win over some of those fans, and they're going to be checking you out. So
hey, so and so, I love your music. I would love to open up for you. I have a 15-minute set. Does that work?
Love that.
That's it.
Yes, Tim, you're hired.
Thank you. And again, a lot of the goals that are habits that are more loftier to complete, give yourself a realistic time frame to complete them. That's not something that you should be doing once a week if that's not what you're used to. Do that once a month, or if you're really in the beginning stages, once a quarter. Go to a jam session, open mic once a quarter. Try to get on a bill once a quarter.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. These are all just, these are not the end goal in themselves.
Correct.
Like as was said at the start, if you're going to achieve like the bigger goal, which is to be a, professional performing and recording live musician, well, at some stage you got to take the baby steps, which is, learn what it's like to perform in front of an audience, and do that more often, and develop your stagecraft, and so these are all the sort of like little short-term goals that we talked about, which are aligned with the longer-term vision.
Yeah, perform in front of your friends in the backyard when you have a barbecue. That's a level of performance, whether you believe it or not. And if you're too nervous to do that, chances are you're not ready to perform in front of a group of strangers in a club on a stage somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
So I think this is a good time to recap some of these habits that we've listed out.
Yeah. So so I think, first and foremost, set your goals and really sit down and think about it. It just gives you some direction of what you want to do, this year, let's say.
Yeah.
And but realize that it's all about setting short-term goals, or these smaller, more achievable things that you can actually set about right away. And it's just about building habits, making these things part of your routine and your schedule. Set aside time to do these things. Write it down when you're going to do it. And eventually, you keep doing these things, and you keep doing these things over time. And, I think you'll hear all different things, from 66 days to 90 days to embed a habit. But if you can keep doing that, then eventually it just becomes natural to you, like brushing your teeth. You don't think about that. You just do it every day. Yeah. And hopefully you do, a couple of times. And, so that is the takeaway. But, we've talked about songwriting. Return to songs that you haven't visited in a while. Try to finish them, try to add to them.
Correct.
Create songwriting challenges for yourself. write a song in 20 minutes. Doesn't have to, you don't never have to release it, but it will develop your songwriting skills. And collaborate with other songwriters if you're not the type of person to have experimented in that way previously.
Yeah, and some tools that are out there to sort of help inspire your creativity as a songwriter. If you experience writer's block or you just need additional resources, what we found online, United Masters has a great tool, Beat Exchange, which is a library of beats and music that you can buy. Some are license free. Some there is a limited license to it, but you can search their catalog and you can filter out things based off of what you want to do, and you can use that to inspire your creativity.
Yeah, and then a similar, like, Beat Exchange has, professional, like, renowned producers on there. A sort of more of like an indie version that's been around for a little bit longer is BeatStars, and you can go on there, you can buy beats, you can do all that sort of thing. But in addition, there's like a community there that you can collaborate with. You can like reach out to producers and basically form your network that way and try working with new people and see what comes of it.
Yeah, and if you're a little bit farther along in your producing, I highly recommend Splice. So every digital audio workshop out there, whether it be Pro Tools or Logic or even GarageBand, comes with its own preset sounds and loops. Splice is subscription based, where you can explore hundreds of thousands of sounds, and you can download them, and they're typically going to be much better than what comes prepackaged in those audio workshop systems.
Yeah, so that's great. So then secondly, we talked about networking. We said like reach out to people on social media, make that a habit, like just like form your network that way.
2 hours a day, once a week.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds great. Once set yourself like a goal once a month. You'll go to a show, and again, just like find shows in your area. They don't have to be the expensive tickets. Just go to local shows, and while you're there, make a habit of trying to connect with one person there. And this is how you do it. You build your network this way.
Take a trip once a year dedicated to music, whether that be a festival or a conference or a clinic that's about improving yourself as a musician, or gives you the opportunity to network with other folks. Take one big trip out of the year.
Yeah, I like that. And then start your own mixer, or your own sort of scheduled hangout where you discuss music, and make that a thing. Get it into your routine and start inviting people, as you're out and you do speak with people and you connect with people, get them along to that and build that out. And maybe that can be something. Maybe you can start your own mixer once a month or something like that if it really gets going.
Definitely. And some resources to help you guys out. Some of these are a bit music industry focused, but if you are an artist who is more serious in their career, maybe you have a manager, you can definitely take advantage of a lot of these resources as well. Womeninmusic.org, it's an organization supporting obviously women in music, and they host events all throughout the country. They have open mics, they'll have fun activities, they'll have food, drinks. So if you want to check out womeninmusic.org.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then there's also Jump Global. They're again throwing events, hosting events all around the country, kind of like mixers, and they're mostly aimed at people who are working in the music industry, and all different types of roles, etc. If you have a manager, for example, who's on his journey coming up as a manager, that's a great thing to send them along to. And they also have an annual summit with where they do workshops and panels and things like that. So go on, they're on, there's get their socials, go on their website, Jump Global.
Definitely. And also for the music managers out there is a Music Managers Forum, where they have newsletters, they have resources for music managers. You can become a member of the Music Manager Forum, and you'll get newsletters and different ways where you can plug into these various communities.
Yeah, I know they also have monthly get-togethers in a lot of the major cities, so that's a cool thing to get along to. Again, it's just getting plugged in and meeting people, having conversations, and you just don't know, where the journey will lead.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do your own mixer and stuff like that, or you're looking for other things to go to in your area, just get on Eventbrite.
Yeah.
You know, you can start up your own one or see what's going on.
And Jason was making fun of me for this before we recorded the podcast. But listen, Facebook is still hot. If you want to make a Facebook event, you know, a lot of venues when they do shows, they will create a Facebook event. So you can do Eventbrite and you can also do a Facebook event. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and my gran will show up.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, look, I think other than that, you know, one of the main tools and resources you have is your own initiative.
Yeah.
You know, so get creative and just get inspired. It's the start of the year. Set your goals and then work backwards from there. What are your micro habits? But, you know, but get creative. You're all creative people, and use your initiative as to, you know, reaching out to people, even, you know, setting your own goals as what those might be, and then trust the process.
Trust the process.
Trust the process, yeah.
And listen, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Record Shepherds. We know we've been gone for a little bit, but we were back, and we will be giving you guys regular content and tools and resources to improve your artistry and your you know, give you tools for your career as a musician. Please like and subscribe. You can listen to us anywhere where podcasts are streamed. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on TikTok. We are at the Record Shepherds everywhere. And just plug in. And if you have any questions, you can email us at therecordshepherds@gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you. And if you're in the area, in the New York area, or you've got any topics that you are interested in, you know, like swing by. Would love to. We're still open to guests as always, and just anything about the conversation to help, you know, develop independent artists and artists of all stages of their career. So yeah, we're open to that. So I think that leaves it to me just to say, until the next exciting episode of the Record Shepherds, continue to follow the guidance of the shepherds.
Don't be the sheep.
Be the goat.
Bah.
Bah.